One afternoon in 1890, Clarissa was sipping tea at a garden party when suddenly a dog came running out of the bushes and tripped her. She fell flat on her back and screamed. Everyone rushed her inside quickly because Clarissa was heavily pregnant. An hour later, she gave birth to an adorable little girl. And that was me. Hi, I'm Agatha Christie, and this is my extraordinary story. Growing up, Mom and Dad spoiled me rotten because I was the youngest. But they were so overprotective, they wouldn't even let me go play in the park. You'll get lost, sweetums.
But I want to see the ducks by the pond.
Nasty ducks can bite your tiny fingers. Best to stay by our side. But there were no schools or kids my age in the neighborhood, and my parents wouldn't teach me how to read. You'll hurt your eyes, love. We'll teach you when you're a little older.
Like when I'm 5?
How about 8? I hated waiting. So I began teaching myself. I started reading when I was 4, and by the time I was 8, I had finished Alice in Wonderland. And I loved telling stories just as much. I didn't have any real friends, but my imaginary ones heard many of the tales I made up. I even had a poem published in the local newspaper when I was just 11. Life was good, but then everything suddenly changed. Dad fell ill and passed away, and a year later, my sister got married and my brother moved overseas. It was just me and my mom in our big house, and money was running out. I eventually wanted to get a job, but Mom refused. You're a lady, Agatha. We don't take jobs. We get husbands who provide for us. I'm 15, and waiting for a husband sounds stupid. You're a gentleman's daughter, love, and you can only make money by marrying well. Mom sent me off to boarding school in Paris to learn music, and I thought this was my chance to make money by becoming a professional opera singer or a pianist. But after 2 years, I gave up that goal because it was quite obvious I just didn't have the talent. I went back to find Mom looking weak, and it broke my heart that her life wasn't as good as before. One day we were out for a walk when we passed an antique shop, and Mom stopped to admire a beautiful pearl brooch. Should we ask the price, Mom? Sweetheart, I already know we can't afford it. Come, let's go. We'll be able to one day, I promise. I'm gonna get you that brooch. Soon after I turned 18, I came down with influenza, and the doctor strictly told me to stay in bed. Feeling bored and restless, I started writing again. Agatha, these stories are brilliant. You should get these published. I thought you didn't approve of working women. I didn't know you could write this well. You have a real talent. But every story got rejected, and I felt so frustrated. And Mom was still obsessed with getting me married. I agreed to go to a dance just to make her happy. I thought I looked cute. Till I got there, every girl was dressed like royalty. Just then, a snobbish-looking girl walked up to me. You, servant girl, why have you arrived so late? Go to the kitchen now and get more drinks for my friends. Excuse me? Get them yourself. How dare you speak to me like that? I'm Celeste Clearwater. Is that supposed to mean something to me? I'm Agatha Miller, and it was not a pleasure to meet you. Before she could reply, all the girls around us gasped and rushed towards the entrance, and Celeste followed. They were all drooling over a man in uniform who'd just arrived, and well, I couldn't blame them.
Oh my goodness, Archie is handsomer than ever.
Isn't he dashing? I heard he flies planes with his eyes closed. Then he's not very good at it. Everyone turned to stare at me, including Archie. I was burning red with embarrassment, but he actually smiled. He walked past Celeste and came straight towards me. You're absolutely right. Now, let me guess your profession. Writer? I'm trying to be one. How did you know? You have ink stains on your fingers. No need to be embarrassed. You're the first interesting person I've met at this dull party. So, tell me all about your writing. Over the next few weeks, Archie swept me off my feet. He was funny and charming, and he supported my passion. And 3 months later, we were engaged. But soon after, World War I broke out all over Europe, and Archie was called to the front. I was a nervous wreck worrying about him, and I decided I had to keep myself busy. So I joined the Red Cross. Caring for injured soldiers made me feel useful, and even helped inspire ideas for writing. One Belgian officer in particular caught my attention. He had a head shaped like an egg and a magnificent walrus mustache. I could just picture him being the perfect detective in my stories, solving the hardest crimes. One day, I was carrying a pile of supplies when I accidentally spilled some water. A nurse came in at that moment, and before I could warn her, she slipped and fell hard on her butt. It was Celeste.
You did that on purpose.
It was obviously an accident. And what are you doing here anyway? Won't working with the poor ruin your nails?
And let you grab all the cute single officers? I don't think so.
I'm engaged.
Yes, I read about it in the papers.
Trust me, it's not gonna last. Archie will come to his senses soon. Celeste, I believe you're suffering from jealousy, and I have just the cure for it. 20 cc's of penicillin in your butt. But Celeste was determined to make my life miserable. She spent all her time trying to get me fired instead of doing her actual job. She even started a nasty rumor about me. Agatha has a dirty past. She went to France when she was 15 because she got pregnant by some chimney sweep. So shameful. That's a dirty lie. I went to boarding school.
And who will people believe?
Me or a poor girl like you? Does Archie know about your past? I don't think he'll care anyway. I bet he's already found some beautiful European heiress. And he won't be coming back to you. You know what? Let's write to him and find out. I'll write to him right now. Dear Archie. No, that's too dry. My shining North Star. Though I indubitably trust you, a girl who claims to care for me deeply has warned me of your feckless heart. Although the girl in question is of limited intelligence, they do say mad, crazy lunatics can say some wise, deep things. What do you think, Celeste? Too flowery? But Celeste looked crazy with jealousy. She charged at me, but the head nurse came in just then and caught her red-handed. Celeste was fired for her outburst and all the mistakes she'd made at work. But her words made me worry even more. I hadn't heard from Archie in weeks, and checking the casualty lists was driving me insane. One foggy night, I was walking back home from work when I suddenly felt like I was being followed. Just as I was about to make a run for it, the figure caught me by my wrist, and I turned around and gasped, "Archie, oh my God, it's really you? Why didn't you reply to my letters or tell me you were coming?"
We don't always get our letters, love. And this was meant to be a surprise. Aren't you happy to see me?
Of course I am. I was so worried something had happened to you, or maybe you'd found someone else.
What a silly idea. There's no one like you, Agatha. And I won't go back before I marry you and make you mine.
And he kissed me deeply, and I felt like I was flying. We got married on Christmas Eve, and it was one of the happiest days of my life. Archie went back to the front, and I finally finished my novel. I sent it to every publisher I could think of, but it kept getting rejected. I was heavily pregnant and miserable. I was reading the newspaper one day, and seeing the list of bestseller books just made me angrier because all I had was a pile of rejection letters. I suddenly swept away a vase on the table, and it went crashing to the floor. A few minutes later, I bent down to pick up the mess, when suddenly, I felt a sharp pain through my body. The baby was coming. I gave birth to a beautiful girl, Rosalind, and she changed my life. I was so busy being a mother that I completely forgot about writing. Till one day, I was busy trying to wrestle Rosalind in the bath when there was a knock at the door, and I found a man outside. "Whatever you're selling, I'm not buying."
I'm not selling anything, Mrs. Christie. I'm John Lane from Bodley Head. I wanted to buy the rights to your book to publish it.
I couldn't believe it. Life completely changed after my first book was published. It was a hit, and money started pouring in. We were able to move to a better house, and on my next visit back home, I bought that antique pearl brooch Mom had once admired in the shop window. I kept writing novels like crazy, and my books were getting rave reviews. Everywhere I went, people wanted me to sign their copies. "Excuse me, please tell us about your next book, Mrs. Christie." I don't want to give any spoilers, but you'll be on the edge of your seat. But slowly, my personal life was turning into a mess.
Agatha, you got ink stains all over my handkerchiefs.
It was an accident. I'll have them washed.
Of course. The famous Agatha Christie can't be bothered to take care of the house or her daughter. She has a maid for all of that.
Why are you being so mean? You loved this about me. You said you didn't want a dull wife.
You're hardly a wife to me at all these days.
We were fighting every day, and things were getting worse. Till one day, I got the most terrible news. Mom was really sick, and I had to see her right away. But I was too late, and I didn't get to say goodbye. Mom had been my biggest support, and I was heartbroken. I was going through her things one day when Archie came downstairs looking serious, his bags packed.
I want a divorce. I'm in love with someone else, and I want to marry her.
What? You're a heartless man, Archie. My mom just passed away and you want to humiliate me just because I'm more famous than you?
You love your fame more than anything. You have no one to blame but yourself.
And he just left. My mind refused to accept it. I was so upset. I packed my bags and went out for a drive. I didn't know where I was going. I just wanted to get away. And then I disappeared. When I opened my eyes, I was in a hotel room in Yorkshire and I had no idea how I'd gotten there. I saw some newspapers on the table and my jaw dropped in shock. My picture was plastered on the front pages with missing written on top. Apparently, the whole country had been looking for me for 11 days, trying to solve the mystery of my disappearance. But I had no memory of what had happened in all that time.
What is the last thing you remember, Mrs. Christie?
I remember being in my car and driving at night, and I was very upset. That's it. The doctor said I had a nervous breakdown that had washed my memory for those days. I was pale and weak, and many people thought I was faking my amnesia. I heard she did it to frame her poor husband for kidnapping. He left her, and who can blame him? I bet she was relaxing at some spa while the country spent so much money looking for her. Despicable. I was heartbroken, and my confidence was destroyed. I agreed to the divorce and decided to get away from everything. I hated leaving Rosalind behind with my sister, but I was too weak to take her along. I'm going to find the biggest candy in the world and bring it back for you.
Get well soon, Mommy. I love you.
I booked a ticket on the Orient Express and went in search of inspiration. I was in a hotel in Iraq waiting for the manager when someone dropped his bags on my toes. Ouch!
I'm so sorry, Miss Christie. I was so shocked to see you here. My bags slipped from my hand. I'm such an idiot.
Maybe you shouldn't read my books. You'll be so shocked you'll hurt yourself or others. He laughed, and I noticed he was very handsome, but much younger than me. I looked away. I was done with love and men, but he seemed eager to get to know me. And I found out he was an archaeologist named Max Mallowan. He showed me around the country. One time, we were in the streets of Baghdad when we were surrounded by reporters.
Miss Christie, are you going to write a murder mystery in Iraq?
I'm on holiday, good folks, but I would love to write about your country someday.
And who is your companion? I'm not important. You should ask Miss Christie when her new book will be out. I hear her typewriter clicking away at night.
I was pleasantly surprised by how humble he was. Archie hated being less important than me, but Max shone more light on me. And slowly, I felt myself falling for him. But when we came back to the hotel, bad news was waiting for me. It's Rosalind, my daughter. She's seriously ill with pneumonia. I must leave right away. I felt my knees go weak, but Max quickly caught me.
I'll come with you.
I just couldn't lose Rosalind like my mother. I prayed we would make it back in time. But when we finally got to England, I was thrilled that Rosalind was out of danger. I spent the next few days entirely with Rosalind, but Max was always around to help with anything we needed. And one morning, I had a surprise waiting for me.
I never thought I'd find someone who fits me like a missing puzzle piece. Agatha, I want to marry you.
But you're 13 years younger than me, Max, and
I don't care about that. The more I know, the more I admire you. Say yes, and make me the happiest man alive.
I was speechless, but I knew I loved him too. So I said yes, and 6 months later, we were married, and I never regretted it. My life became a happy whirlwind of writing mysteries, archaeological digs, and spending time with my daughter. My works were translated into 100 languages and are still widely read today. My stories were so popular, the Queen called me to present me with damehood for my contribution and services to literature. I'm Agatha Christie, and I never gave up on my dreams, and neither should you.